Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Justin, and this is the Apocalypse Gym podcast. As I hope you know that, as you've at some point clicked the name on whatever platform that you're listening to or watching on. I hope that this episode finds you all well. And the idea of today's episode was that the day before Thanksgiving is when this is released. That maybe you're traveling home to see your family, or you are cooking in the kitchen, maybe prepping stuff for tomorrow. Maybe you're hanging out with family that's already arrived. Um, Maybe you're shopping. Maybe you're at the grocery store picking up some things for tomorrow. But whatever it is, getting ready for Turkey Day here Thursday. I'll give you a quick listen to the podcast and just some thoughts that I thought was important for all of us to consider in our relentless pursuit of our best version of ourselves. And if you're lucky like I am, and I'll admit this, I like all of my in-laws. So when I go home for the holidays, there's no issues, right? I like all of them. We all get along well. We all have great conversations, and I'm very lucky in that way that I don't have any of those kind of crazy issues, that some families might have. I can tell you when I was younger, there were some, family members that we always hung out with that, you always had a question of, are they going to be late, or are they going to be on time, or are they going to show up, blitzed out of their mind, or whatever it is. Like, you always had those family that was outside of your norm. Well, I'm not saying what they did was wrong, but it was outside of your norm and just something that you always every Thanksgiving you're like, oh, so and so is gonna be doing this. You're like, oh yeah, we'll do it again. So I currently don't have any of those issues, but I've dealt with it in the past. But sometimes you have those people who always, in the crazy world we live, right now it's politics. Politics is a big one. Everybody wants to talk about politics, whether you're Democrat or Republican, or Trump is the worst thing in the world, or President Biden is, old and senile, or whatever it is, right? They always got the conversation. They always have to be right. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. They don't want to hear it. Or I got some weird, crazy belief like aliens are coming to take our babies and they're redoing our genetic code. I don't know. Or maybe, and a difficult one is, maybe there's a relationship somewhere in the family that's now going well. Maybe the family's separated or they're divorced or whatever. It could be anything, right? Anything that makes everyone uncomfortable, and you just don't want to be around them because you're like, oh, I don't want to get sucked in, right? I can relate to that because my neighbor behind me, I love him. He's an old retired Vietnam veteran, and he loves to talk, and I love talking to him. And it'd be great if it was, a quick 10 or 15-minute conversation. But many times over the summer, I would go to mow my yard, and I would see him out, and he'd wave me over, and I'd go and talk to him, and we would be there for an hour and a half. And every conversation was basically the same conversation over. But you don't want to get sucked in, even though I love the man. I love him, and he's the one who made me that mincemeat pie, which was quite delicious, by the way. But sometimes you just don't want to get sucked in, right? Because you just don't want to be part of it. But I think some of us have those families, right? But you can see the title of the episode is "Thankful for In-Laws," and I know it can be tough, right? But you should be thankful for all of them because in some part they have shaped your life, whatever it is. I mean, it could be that they have directly affected you and maybe your mindset, and maybe, somebody you saw that was, always drinking alcohol at the family events turned you away from alcohol. It could be, something like that was a direct effect on you. Or maybe it's your spouse's family. In some way they've affected your spouse. So indirectly they've affected you. So whoever they are and whatever they do, whether it be good or bad, you should be thankful for them because they have shaped your life, right? And I think it's important that we identify what they have done for us. And again, it doesn't have to be, it can't be like, oh man, they affected my life in this great way. It may not be that. It could be, you've almost seen what not to do, and they've affected your life that way. And I know it's hard to think that you would be thankful for that, but it was a conversation I had today. I actually sat down with a coaching session. One of the first times I ever sat in a coaching session. It was almost like a life coach. And it was a lot of me talking, and the person kind of leading the conversation. But, a lot of times some of the things that frustrate you, it's difficult to see while you're in it, right? Because you're frustrated, and it's hard to fathom like a path out of it. But you kind of learn what not to do. And kind of the current situation I'm in, just where I'm at, like it's crazy, right? It just, things don't flow well. Things are off the wall. Things don't seem to happen the way they're supposed to. And there's a lot of things that we could do to fix it. It's like turning a battleship, right? It just doesn't happen quickly. Like you can start to turn, and it's going to turn eventually, but it's just going to take a long time. And that's kind of where I'm at. And kind of the takeaway from the conversation was, how do we take that into the future? And that's what you got to think about. Like, all these people have affected you, and maybe they've shown you what not to do, right? So you got to be thankful for them. But I think too, if they do start conversations with you, you don't have to blow them off or act like you're not interested. I genuinely like talking to people that sometimes might seem sort of crazy, because most of the times I don't understand their perspective. And maybe sometimes we think someone's crazy because we don't understand their perspective. So instead of, having that conversation with somebody, that say they think their earth is flat, right? Just for example, maybe you sit down, and instead of being like, oh, you're crazy, and it's, we got pictures from NASA that show the globe and blah, 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 blah. You could be, hey man, I'm not sure I know a whole lot about flat earthers. Can you describe it to me? Or can you describe me how you guys think about it? And ask earnest questions, and whatever it is like, ask the question. Oh, so you think the earth is flat because of this? Well, how do you explain blah, 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 or something? Ask earnest questions. Just ask questions. You don't have to say, well, that's crazy, because that's stupid, and we know the earth is round. That's going to turn them off, and you're going to cause animosity between the two of you. Just listen to them. You know what? And maybe you will understand who they are or why they believe what they believe a little bit better. And then maybe on later down the road, the more conversations you have with them, the more credibility. We've talked about this before on the podcast. The more you listen to them and the more credibility you build with them, the easier you can affect them later, because you've built that credibility. So when you say something to them, they might actually be like, oh, okay, yeah, I trust his opinion. I mean, he's listened to me. I mean, maybe I should listen to him. So be thankful to those people, because maybe they'll open your eyes to something you didn't understand too before. But remain thankful. And I talked about it in episode 8, that I think, being grateful for, a lot of times I remember as a kid, like, we had a really large family. We would always jam them into this tiny house. I mean, it was packed wall to wall, and you never really wanted to go or stay long, because it was like, there were kids everywhere. It was hot, and people were cooking, and like your parents yelled at you because you were too loud. But I think we have to kind of like reset our comfort levels, right? As we talked about in the last episode, it's crazy, right? But we don't do it all the time. We get together. How many times a year do you get together, right? We get Thanksgiving, we got Christmas typically. but not often we get together with all our family. Maybe a family reunion, during the summer or something. But it's not often, right? So I think we kind of got to reset our comfort level with just accepting it's going to be kind of weird, right? But it's okay because there's a lot of people who don't get that, right? Say you're maybe an elderly person who, they're in a nursing home and they just don't get to be with their family anymore, or it could be, as I've done many a times, maybe it's a soldier, off somewhere else in another country, right? Spending some time in a guard tower somewhere on a patrol on Thanksgiving. He's not with his family. So I think we need to just be grateful for the opportunity to spend time with our families, whether they're crazy or not, whether they think the moon landing was real or not. I think we need to understand that they may not always be there. Not everyone is going to be around the table every year. The people you see this year may not be the people you see next year. So, whatever the circumstances is, maybe, they moved away next year and they just can't make it. Or, they get sick and they just can't make it. It could be COVID or, whatever it is, whatever weird disease, pandemic we come up with next. We, you know, they may not be there next year. So appreciate the fact that they're there now because they may not be there again. And it's tough, right? It's tough thinking about. Or you're shopping, or you're cooking. Just remember to reset your discomfort level. And make sure that you take a moment and you appreciate every person that walks in that door because they may not be there next time. And it would be a tragedy that if you didn't take that opportunity to tell them that you're thankful for them. So, until just go keep it short, that way you guys can finish up whatever you're doing. I hope you can take away something from this, whatever it is. Maybe you think I'm crazy, or maybe you're interested in having a conversation with someone who thinks the earth is flat now. That's great too. If anyone wants to have that conversation with me, I would 100% look forward to having that conversation with you. But a big part of being the best version of yourself is being grateful for others around you and grateful for everything you have. So, to all of you out there, all you survivors out there listening to the podcast, be relentless, stay relentless. Most of all, just for this one, be thankful.